The sun rose over Zithera, a planet of strange beauty and deadly wilderness. Its cities were sparkling towers of silver and blue, surrounded by forests that seemed alive even when no one walked there. Birds with glowing feathers flew above, and rivers of light ran through the valleys. But for all its beauty, Zithera was a world where danger hid behind every corner. The alien nobles had long learned that charm and strength were not always enough to survive. In the grand palace at the heart of the capital city, Princess Liara stood by a tall window, watching the first rays of light fall on the city. She was slender, with skin that shimmered slightly under the sun, and her hair flowed like liquid gold. But it was her eyes that were most striking. They were bright violet and sharp, reflecting intelligence and caution. Liara had grown up learning that the galaxy was full of threats. She had trained in diplomacy, languages, and strategy, and no stranger could fool her easily. Today was different. Today she was about to meet a human. Humans were a rarity in this part of the galaxy. Most alien species believed humans were fragile, slow, and weak. Yet somehow the humans had survived, expanded across their own star systems, and even built fleets that could rival older civilizations. Still, few had ever visited Zithera. Princess Liara had only seen humans in holograms and reports. They were described as simple, polite, and surprisingly calm. The palace doors opened, and a man stepped into the room. He was tall and broad, but not overly muscular. His hair was dark, his eyes clear and calm. His uniform was simple, yet clean and precise. He moved without hurry, without arrogance. "Princess Liara," he said in perfect Zitheran, bowing slightly. His voice was soft and steady. "I am Kale from the human delegation. It is an honor to meet you." Liara studied him carefully. There was no grand display, no attempt to impress her. He spoke calmly with a gentle tone and smiled politely. She found herself surprised at how different he was from the humans she had imagined. Most reports had painted humans as simple creatures, but Kale seemed intelligent, cautious, and thoughtful. "It is good to meet you, Kale," Liara said. "I have heard much about your species, but never personally met one." Kale inclined his head. "I hope our meeting will prove that humans value honor and friendship above all else." Liara felt a spark of curiosity. She had met countless envoys, diplomats, and nobles, and most had been brash, arrogant, or cautious in their own ways. Kyle was different. His presence was calm, almost soothing. The attendants led Kale to the audience chamber where the palace council waited. Liara followed, but her eyes never left the human. She noticed small details: how he moved carefully to avoid stepping on the polished floor, how he observed the room with quiet attention, and how his hands never trembled, even when he bowed to the council elders. During the formal introductions, Kale spoke respectfully but with quiet confidence. He listened more than he spoke, and when he did speak, his words were measured, clear, and polite. The council members were impressed, though some hid it behind their usual alien pride. Liara, however, felt something different. She felt trust. She believed that behind this calm and gentle human, there was a mind capable of great thought and great care. After the introductions, Liara and Kale were escorted to a private garden. The garden was filled with glowing flowers, pools of water, and small creatures that chirped melodiously. It was quiet here, a place for conversation and reflection. Kyle looked around, clearly fascinated but never rushed. "Your planet is extraordinary," he said. "The light, the air, the life. It is unlike anything I have ever known." Liara smiled slightly. "It is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. Zithera has its ways of testing those who visit or try to rule it." Kyle nodded. "I understand. Humans are not strangers to danger. We have learned to survive against odds that others thought impossible." There was a pause. Liara studied him carefully. Humans were supposed to be weak, but Kale did not seem weak at all. He carried himself with confidence, yet without arrogance. His eyes were calm, but they seemed to observe everything: the garden, her expression, the distant mountains beyond the palace walls. "You seem gentle," Liara said finally. "I expected someone more forceful," Kale smiled faintly. "Gentleness is not weakness. Sometimes it is the strongest quality a person can have." Liara considered his words. She had heard similar phrases before, but there was sincerity in Kale's voice. Something about the way he spoke made her feel safe. She realized she was not afraid of him. She realized she wanted to know him better. Over the next few hours, they walked through the garden, speaking of many things: the stars, politics, and their own lives. Kyle shared stories of human cities, of planets far away, of struggles his people had overcome. Liara found herself intrigued. Humans were strange creatures, fragile in appearance yet resilient and clever. Your people have survived many challenges, Liara said. Why? What makes humans different? Kale thought for a moment. We adapt, we learn. We value life and we protect it even when others doubt us. Strength is not always visible. Sometimes it is quiet, patient, and careful. That is how we survive. Liara nodded slowly. She began to see why humans were underestimated. They seemed ordinary, almost fragile, yet beneath that appearance was a core of resilience and determination. She could feel it in Kyle. He seemed ordinary, gentle, and yet she suspected he was extraordinary. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. The palace bell rang, signaling the evening ceremony. Liara and Kale returned to the palace, walking side by side. Inside the great hall, the ceremony was prepared. The alien elders arranged the traditional rituals, and Liara found herself standing before Kale. He bowed slightly, and she felt a strange calm wash over her. He looked gentle, sincere, and strong. She believed him. When the vows were spoken, Liara felt a thrill of hope. She believed she was marrying a gentle man, someone who would honor her and protect her, but never use force unless absolutely necessary. Kale's voice was calm, steady, and full of quiet promise. As the ceremony ended, the palace erupted in celebration. Lights shimmered, music played, and nobles from across Zithera cheered. Liara looked at Kale. He smiled, polite and gentle, and bowed slightly in acknowledgement of the celebration. Yet in the quiet corner of her mind, a small question lingered. Humans were strange. He seemed gentle now, but could a human really be as harmless as he appeared? For now, Liara chose to believe. She chose to trust. As night fell, Kale escorted her to her private quarters. He spoke softly, carefully, ensuring her comfort. "Rest well, Princess," he said. "Tomorrow we begin our lives together." Liara smiled faintly. "Rest well, Kale, I feel at ease with you." Kyle nodded as if he understood more than his words could say. There was a quiet strength in him, a calm that did not need display. Liara thought she knew the human well. She believed she understood him. But the galaxy was full of surprises. And Kale was not just a gentleman. He was far more than that. Outside the palace walls, in the darkness of the alien forests, dangers waited. Shadows moved silently, and whispers of rebellion carried on the wind. The humans had come to Zithera, underestimated by all. And Kale, the man who seemed gentle, was already preparing for what was to come. Liara did not know it yet, but her life and her understanding of humans was about to change forever. And in the quiet of the palace, Kale's eyes glimmered with a faint light, calm, gentle, and ready. The morning sun rose over Zithera, painting the palace walls in shades of gold and silver. Princess Liara awoke with a strange mix of excitement and curiosity. Her first night as Kale's wife had been calm and peaceful. The human had been gentle and polite as he had promised. Yet a part of her felt that there was more to him than she had seen. Kale was already awake when she entered the breakfast hall. He stood by the window looking out at the distant mountains. His posture was straight, his expression calm, and his eyes seemed to study every detail of the city below. Liara noticed the way he observed, quietly noting everything without a word. There was a careful precision in him that made her both curious and cautious. "Good morning, Princess," Kale said, turning to her with a small, polite smile. "I hope you slept well." "I did," Liara replied. "Thank you." "And you?" "Rested," he said simply, then gestured toward the breakfast table. "Shall we eat?" As they sat together, servants brought trays of food, exotic fruits, and steaming drinks. Kale ate slowly, with careful movements, as if savoring every bite. Liara watched him quietly. There was a gentleness in his actions, a calmness that seemed almost unnatural for someone in a new world filled with strange creatures and unknown dangers. After breakfast, Liara suggested a walk through the palace gardens. She wanted to learn more about her new husband, to see if the gentle image he projected was real. Kale agreed, moving beside her with the same calm grace she had observed the day before. The garden was alive with colors and sounds. Strange flowers glowed softly, and small flying creatures zipped through the air. Liara led Kale to a quiet area, away from the palace staff. She watched him carefully, trying to see what lay beneath the calm exterior. "You seem very different from the humans I imagined," she said finally. "Reports made your people seem fragile, simple, and weak, yet you do not seem fragile at all." Kale looked at her thoughtfully. "Humans are underestimated," he said. "We survive because we are careful, adaptable, and determined. We are quiet when we need to be. We act when it matters most." Liara nodded slowly. She had heard these words before in stories of human exploration and survival, but hearing them from Kale made them feel real. There was a quiet confidence in him, a strength that did not need display. She felt drawn to it, intrigued by the mystery of this man. As they walked deeper into the garden, Kale paused near a small training area. It was a section of the palace grounds where soldiers practiced combat, their movements precise and disciplined. Liara watched as Kale's eyes followed the soldiers, noting their stances and strategies. "You watch closely," she said, curious. "Do you have experience with combat?" Kale's expression remained calm. "A little," he replied. "Humans train in many ways. We prepare for situations where survival depends on skill and quick thinking." Liara smiled slightly. She believed him. He seemed gentle, polite, and honest. Yet a small part of her wondered why he watched the soldiers so intently. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden alarm. Red lights flashed across the palace walls and distant sirens wailed. Liara felt her heart race. "What is happening?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. Kyle's eyes narrowed. "Stay close to me," he said calmly, his voice steady. "Do not panic. Follow my lead." Liara watched as Kale moved quickly but with a careful, precise manner. He did not run wildly or shout orders. Instead, he scanned the area, noting exits, guards, and the paths of approaching threats. Soon, a group of alien insurgents appeared near the palace gates. They were armed with energy weapons and strange devices. Most palace guards reacted with fear, unsure of how to respond. But Kale did not hesitate. He drew a small blade from his side. It was simple, elegant, and unlike any weapon Liara had seen before. With a calm, steady motion, he moved forward. His movements were lightning fast, precise, and controlled. The insurgents fired, but Kale avoided every attack with ease. In a few swift strikes, he disarmed 2 of them and disabled another without serious harm. Liara watched in shock. The gentleman she had married was no ordinary human. His skill, speed, and precision were beyond anything she had expected. The calm exterior, the polite words, all of it had been a mask. Kale was a trained warrior, capable of defeating enemies even in overwhelming situations. When the threat was neutralized, Kale returned to Liara's side. His expression was calm, as if nothing unusual had happened. "Are you unharmed?" Liara asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I am unharmed," he replied simply. "And you are safe. That is what matters." Liara felt a mixture of fear, admiration, and awe. The human she had thought gentle was a warrior. She had believed him harmless, yet he had just shown her that humans were underestimated for a reason. Their quiet strength, their patience, and their skill made them dangerous opponents when needed. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly. "Why did you let me believe you were gentle?" Kale looked at her, his eyes calm but serious. "Gentleness is a choice," he said. "I chose to show you gentleness because it is important for trust. But the galaxy is not always gentle. I am prepared to act when necessary, to protect life and those I care for. That is my duty." Liara nodded slowly. She began to understand. Kale's gentleness was real, but it was not weakness. It was a deliberate choice, a mask for the strength that lay beneath. He could be calm and polite, but when danger appeared, he was unstoppable. The palace commander arrived shortly after, bringing news that the insurgents were part of a larger plot to destabilize the royal family. Liara realized that the threat was far from over. Other factions would see the attack as a weakness, a chance to challenge the princess's rule. Kale moved quickly to organize the palace defenses. He spoke with guards in a calm, clear voice, giving precise instructions. He anticipated ambushes, secured key points, and ensured that the palace residents were safe. Liara followed him closely, learning from his actions. She had seen leaders before, but none had the combination of calm, intelligence, and skill that Kale displayed. As the day passed, Liara saw more of Kale's abilities. He trained silently, moved through the palace without disturbing anyone, and planned for attacks that had not yet come. He was patient, careful, and deliberate. And yet he was also capable of sudden, overwhelming force when the situation demanded it. By evening, the palace was secure. Liara stood beside Kale on the balcony, looking out over the city. She felt a mixture of fear and admiration. The human she had married was not the gentleman she had believed. He was far more strong, clever, and unstoppable when he chose to act. Kale stood beside her, calm and silent. "You should rest," he said softly. "The day has been long and more may come. But for now, the palace is safe." Liara nodded, still processing what she had witnessed. I see now. You are not just gentle. You are extraordinary." Kale's faint smile did not change. "I act as needed," he said. "Gentleness is my choice, but strength is my responsibility. Both are needed to protect those we care for." Liara realized that humans were not what the galaxy thought. They were underestimated because their power was hidden, quiet, and deliberate. They survived against impossible odds because they were patient, adaptable, and clever, and Kale was the perfect example. As the stars appeared over Zithera, Liara felt a new respect for her husband. She had married a man she thought gentle, but now she knew the truth. Kale was a warrior, a protector, and a strategist. He had shown her that humans were far more dangerous and far more remarkable than any alien could imagine. And deep inside, Liara felt a spark of something else: trust, awe, and perhaps the beginning of love for the man who could be gentle. The day after the palace attack, the air on Zithera was tense. Guards moved with cautious precision, scanning corridors and rooftops for hidden threats. The city below was quiet but alert, its citizens aware that someone had challenged the princess's authority. Yet inside the palace, Princess Liara could not stop thinking about Kale. She had spent the night trying to understand the man she had married. The gentle words, calm gestures, and polite manners she had observed during their first meetings were real. But the display of skill during the insurgent attack had shattered the illusion of simplicity. Kale was not gentle only. He was powerful, clever, and precise. Liara found him in the palace training yard early in the morning. The courtyard was empty except for him, and he moved in silence, practicing with a strange weapon she had not seen before. It was a long, thin blade with subtle curves, almost alive in the way it reflected the sunlight. Kale moved with grace, but each motion carried the weight of deadly skill. He noticed her presence without looking. "You are awake early," he said calmly. "Come to watch?" "I wanted to see," Liara admitted. "Your movements. They are unlike anything I have ever seen. Even the palace guards would struggle to match your skill." Kyle stopped for a moment, sheathing the blade with a precise motion. "Humans train this way," he said simply. "We prepare for situations where survival depends on skill, speed, and strategy. You have seen only a fraction." Liara felt both awe and curiosity. "Why do you hide it? Why do you seem so gentle?" Kyle looked at her, his calm eyes steady. "Gentleness is a choice. Showing force unnecessarily can create fear, distrust, or chaos. Strength is not always about display. It is about control, protection, and timing. Only when needed should one act decisively." Liara nodded slowly. She began to understand, though only partially. The man she had married was extraordinary. His gentleness was not weakness, it was deliberate, a mask for his true power. "Will you teach me?" she asked suddenly, her curiosity overpowering her caution. Kale hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I can teach you how to defend yourself, yes. But understanding humans is more than learning combat. You must understand strategy, observation, and patience. Do you wish to learn that as well?" Liara smiled. "I do. I want to know how humans survive when others underestimate them." For hours, Kale moved through the courtyard, demonstrating techniques that combined agility, speed, and strategy. He explained how humans anticipated attacks, observed enemy patterns, and used the environment to their advantage. Liara tried to mimic his movements, but she realized quickly how precise and practiced Kale's actions were. "You have natural instincts," Kale said, watching her carefully. "But strength comes from practice, observation, and decision-making under pressure. Always remember, the mind is as important as the blade." Liara nodded, absorbing his words. She realized that human strength was not obvious. Their power was hidden beneath patience, intelligence, and discipline. She had never seen anything like it in any alien species. Later that evening, Kale led her to a secret section of the palace. A hidden door behind a tapestry revealed a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Liara hesitated, but Kale's calm presence reassured her. "This way," he said. "You must see the preparations. Safety is key and awareness is everything." They moved down into an underground chamber, where maps of the city, blueprints of the palace, and complex devices covered the walls and tables. Liara's eyes widened. "What is all this?" she asked, amazed. "This is preparation," Kale explained. "If someone wants to challenge the palace, we must anticipate their moves. Humans survive by thinking ahead, by seeing possibilities that others overlook." Liara walked slowly around the room, studying the devices. She realized that Kale's planning was meticulous. Every escape route, every vantage point, every potential threat had been accounted for. Even the insurgent attack from the day before was anticipated in some way. "You predicted the attack?" she asked, surprised. "In part," Kale admitted. "Humans learn from patterns. We prepare for what is likely and adapt when the unexpected occurs. That is why the palace remains safe." Liara felt admiration growing in her chest. The gentle human she had married was also a strategist, a protector, and a thinker. She had believed she knew him, but she was only beginning to understand the depths of his abilities. Over the next few days, Liara observed Kale in action. He moved silently through the palace corridors at night, checking locks, observing guards, and studying the city from rooftops. He trained consistently, practicing with his blade, small devices, and hand-to-hand combat. And yet to anyone else he seemed calm, polite, and gentle. One night Liara asked quietly, "Kale, do you ever fear?" Kyle paused, his eyes reflecting the soft light of the chamber. "Fear is natural," he said, "but humans learn to use it. Fear sharpens the senses, guides decisions, and protects life. I do not let it control me. I let it teach me." Liara nodded slowly. She began to see why humans survived where others failed. Their strength was quiet, controlled, and deliberate. They were underestimated because most beings never looked past their calm exterior. Kale's calm was his greatest advantage. Then came another warning. Palace sensors detected unusual activity near the city gates. Kale studied the readings carefully and realized that a rival alien faction was planning another attack. This faction was larger and more dangerous than the previous insurgents. Liara watched him plan. He did not panic, raise his voice, or act recklessly. Instead, he organized guards, adjusted defensive positions, and set traps in ways that only someone with foresight and tactical genius could manage. "Will they attack tonight?" she asked, concern in her voice. "Possibly," Kyle replied. "But we are prepared. Humans survive because we anticipate, adapt, and act decisively. You will see that soon." Liara felt a mixture of fear and excitement. She had married a man she thought gentle, but now she knew he was far more. He was a protector, a strategist, and a warrior. His calm exterior masked a mind that could think 10 steps ahead of anyone else. That evening, as darkness fell over the city, Kale and Liara stood on the palace balcony, watching the distant lights of approaching figures. Liara could feel the tension in the air. She had never imagined that her life could change so quickly. She had married a gentle human, yet she now stood beside a man whose mind and skill were unmatched. "Kyle, what happens if they attack?" she asked softly. "We will defend the palace," he said calmly, "and we will survive. Humans always do." Liara realized that she was not afraid, not because the humans were invincible, but because Kale's calm and preparation gave her confidence. She had seen him act with precision, control, and skill. She had witnessed the way he anticipated danger and protected life. She understood finally why humans were underestimated by the galaxy. Their strength was not obvious, but it was real, hidden, and extraordinary. As the night grew darker, Liara followed Kale into the corridors and training chambers. She watched him adjust traps, review plans, and ensure that every detail was accounted for. The palace was a fortress under his guidance, though to anyone else it seemed a simple building filled with ordinary guards. By the time they returned to her quarters, Liara's mind was racing. She had believed in a gentle man, but she now understood that Kale's gentleness was a choice, a mask for incredible skill, intelligence, and strength. She had never known a human like him, and she realized that humans were far more capable than any alien could imagine. As she lay in bed that night, Liara thought of the upcoming days. The rival faction would strike, and she would see Kale's true abilities in action again. But for the first time she felt hope, not just for her own safety but for the future of her people. With a human like Kale at her side, she knew they could survive any challenge. And in the quiet of the palace, Kale's eyes glimmered with calm determination. He had shown Liara a fraction of his strength, a glimpse of human ingenuity and courage. But the real test was coming. The night air over Zythera was tense, thick with anticipation. The city's streets were quiet, but every shadow seemed alive with danger. The rival alien faction had gathered forces on the outskirts, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Within the palace walls, Princess Liara could feel the energy shifting. Guards moved with alert precision, their eyes scanning every corridor, every window. Yet even with all the precautions, Liara felt a shiver of fear. Kyle stood at the top of the palace tower, his dark eyes fixed on the distant horizon. The human was calm, almost eerily so as he studied the enemy positions. He had prepared for this moment, anticipating their tactics and movements, yet he did not allow overconfidence to creep into his mind. Every plan, every strategy, every movement had been considered carefully. Liara approached him quietly. "Kyle, they are many," she said, her voice low. "Can we truly defend the palace?" Kale turned to her, calm and measured. "Numbers are not always the advantage," he said. "Humans survive because we think ahead. We adapt, we use the environment. We strike where others least expect it. Trust me, Liara, the palace will stand." Liara nodded slowly. She wanted to believe him, and the confidence in his eyes made it easier. The gentle man she had married was also a warrior, a strategist and a protector. She had witnessed his skill in combat, his planning, and his calm precision. She had no doubt that humans were underestimated for a reason, and that Kale would prove it tonight. The enemy forces began their advance. Strange vehicles and energy weapons moved through the outskirts of the city, sending ripples of alarm across the palace grounds. The guards tensed, some whispering in fear, but Kale's calm presence was steady. He moved through the ranks, giving clear, precise instructions. "Hold the gates," he said quietly but firmly. "Focus on defense, but watch for openings. Do not engage until you see the advantage. Move only as I direct." Liara followed him to the courtyard where he had arranged a small group of elite guards and human mercenaries. Every position had been calculated. Every route had been observed. Liara saw traps hidden in the shadows, barricades subtly placed to guide the enemy's movement. "They won't expect this," Kyle said. "Most think we are simple. They will learn otherwise." As the first wave of attackers reached the outer walls, Kyle drew his blade. The metal glinted in the moonlight, simple yet deadly in appearance. Liara felt a shiver run down her spine. The human she had believed gentle was no longer just a protector. He was a force of nature. The battle began. Energy weapons fired, illuminating the night with flashes of blue and green. The guards fired in coordinated bursts, following Kale's instructions with precision. The enemy faltered, surprised by the human's calm command and the traps he had set. Kyle moved like water through the battlefield. His blade struck with precise timing, disarming opponents without unnecessary harm. When a group of enemies broke through a barricade, he moved swiftly, striking decisively to neutralize the threat. Liara watched, amazed at his skill. Each movement was deliberate, calculated, and deadly. Yet he did not kill recklessly. Every action had a purpose. Liara felt a surge of admiration and fear. She had married a gentle man, but the warrior she now witnessed was extraordinary. His calm presence inspired the guards, strengthened the city's defenses, and terrified the enemy. The battle intensified. The alien faction sent more troops, larger and more heavily armed. Kale anticipated their tactics, positioning his forces in ways that made every attack predictable and every move of the enemy a disadvantage. "Use the rooftops," Kale commanded. "Guide them into the traps. Do not let them surround you. Stay in formation." The guards moved quickly, following his precise instructions. Liara saw the enemy fall into pits, be stopped by barricades, and be outmaneuvered at every turn. The human strategy turned chaos into order. The seemingly overwhelming enemy was now vulnerable, disoriented by the careful planning and precise action of a single man. At one point, an enemy leader appeared, a massive alien with powerful armor and a strange energy weapon. Most guards froze, unsure how to confront him. Kale did not hesitate. He met the enemy in the open, moving with unmatched speed and skill. The clash of blade and energy weapon lit the courtyard with sparks. Liara's heart raced. The human moved with fluid precision, striking openings in the aliens' defense, anticipating every attack. In moments, the leader was disarmed and incapacitated, and Kale returned to the guard line, calm and collected as if nothing had happened. The battle raged through the night. Kale's strategy, human ingenuity, and calm presence turned the tide repeatedly. The alien faction had expected chaos and fear, but they faced coordination, foresight, and precise action. Slowly, they began to retreat, their forces broken, their morale shattered. Liara fought alongside him at times, inspired by his courage and skill. She had never imagined herself in battle, yet she moved with purpose, guided by Kale's instruction. Together they were unstoppable. The princess and the human warrior became a symbol of hope for the palace and city, their coordination and courage inspiring every guard and citizen who witnessed the fight. As dawn approached, the enemy forces were finally defeated. The city was safe, the palace secure, and the rival faction shattered. Liara stood beside Kale on the balcony, looking out over the city. Her heart pounded with excitement, relief, and awe. "You," she said softly. "You are incredible." Kale's expression was calm, almost modest. "I did what was necessary," he said simply. "Humans survive by acting when it matters most. That is all." Liara shook her head, smiling. "It is more than that. You are more than I could have imagined. The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." Kale glanced at her, his eyes calm and steady. "Underestimation can be useful," he said quietly, "but it can also be dangerous for those who doubt. The key is to act with purpose, protect life, and make every move count." Liara felt a new respect for him, deeper than admiration. The gentle human she had married was now a warrior, a protector, and a strategist who could face overwhelming odds without fear. She realized that humans' strength was not just in skill or courage. It was in their mind, their patience, and their ability to remain calm when others faltered. The palace began to celebrate cautiously. The guards cheered, the citizens of the city felt safe again, and the alien nobles looked upon Kale with newfound respect. He had proven that humans were not weak, fragile, or simple. They were capable of extraordinary things when underestimated, and Kale had become the perfect example. Liara stood beside him, feeling pride and awe. She had believed she married a gentleman, and she had been correct. But she had also discovered that gentleness could coexist with strength, strategy, and courage beyond imagination. Kale turned to her quietly. "The night is over," he said. "The palace is safe, but threats will always exist. We must remain vigilant." Liara nodded. "I understand, and I trust you, Kale. I have never trusted anyone like this before." He smiled faintly, calm and gentle. "Trust is earned, Princess, and you have earned it by standing beside me. Together we can face any challenge." As the sun rose over Zithera, bathing the city in light, Liara felt a sense of hope she had never known. The gentle human she married was also a force of nature, capable of protecting life, inspiring courage, and defeating even the most dangerous enemies. She realized that humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because their strength was quiet, hidden, and extraordinary. And in that moment, standing beside Kale, she knew that the galaxy had never seen the full power of humans. One man, calm and gentle, had turned the tide of battle and proven that humans were a species worth respecting and fearing when underestimated. The night's battle was over. The palace stood. The city was safe, and Kale, the human who had seemed gentle, had revealed a strength and skill that no alien could have predicted. Liara looked at him, her heart filled with awe, trust, and a new understanding. The gentle man was a warrior. The quiet human was a protector. And together, they were unstoppable. The galaxy had not yet seen the full extent of what humans could do, but it would. The palace was quiet at dawn. The battle had ended, leaving only the distant sounds of retreating enemy forces and the soft whispers of relief from the citizens of Zithera. Princess Liara stood at the balcony looking out at the city below. The streets were alive with cautious celebrations. Guards and citizens alike were speaking in awe about the human warrior who had defended the palace with precision and skill. Kyle stood beside her, calm and steady as always. His dark eyes scanned the horizon, noting every detail even in the light of day. He did not appear triumphant. He appeared prepared, already considering the next steps. Liara had grown accustomed to this side of him, the strategist, the warrior, but she also appreciated the gentle man he continued to be. "You were remarkable," Liara said softly, turning to him. "Last night, I saw more than I ever expected. The palace, the city. You saved everything." Kale shook his head slightly. "I did what was necessary. Humans survive by acting when it matters. I only followed what the situation required." Liara smiled faintly, though her heart was still full of awe. "You call it necessary, but it was extraordinary. The way you thought, planned, and acted. No alien could have matched you." Kale's calm expression remained. "Perhaps, but humans are underestimated for that reason. Quiet strength is often overlooked. That is why we survive. And that is why we can protect those we care for, even in a galaxy that doubts us." Liara studied him, realizing fully that she had underestimated humans herself until she met Kale. She had married a man she thought gentle, but the truth was far more profound. Kale's gentleness coexisted with strength, strategy, and courage. The calm exterior hid the full power of human potential, and she now understood that humans were far more extraordinary than anyone had imagined. Over the next few days, the palace and city were secured. Kale worked tirelessly, reviewing defenses, coordinating guards, and preparing for any potential retaliation. Yet despite the constant vigilance, his demeanor never changed. He remained calm, polite, and deliberate. Liara observed him closely, learning from his every movement, his every decision. One afternoon, Kyle invited her to the training yard. "I want you to see more," he said. "Not just how to defend yourself, but how humans think, plan, and survive. Understanding this is key for leaders like you." Liara nodded eagerly. She followed him as he demonstrated tactics, traps, and strategies designed to protect the palace and city. Each action was deliberate, each instruction precise. She began to understand that human strength was not only in physical skill but in intellect, observation, and the ability to anticipate and adapt. "You see," Kale explained, "humans survive because we combine mind and body. We observe patterns, predict threats, and act decisively. Gentleness is part of the strategy. Patience is part of the strength. And courage is always the foundation." Liara felt admiration and respect growing within her. The man she had married was teaching her to see beyond appearances, to recognize the quiet, hidden strength that others often missed. That evening, as the sun set, Liara and Kale walked through the palace gardens. The glowing flowers and soft lights reflected the peace that had returned to the palace. Yet Liara knew that threats could return. She knew that Kale's vigilance and skill were the reasons they had survived. And she understood that the calm human at her side was her greatest protection. "Kale," she said softly, "I believed you were gentle. And you are. But I see now that gentleness is only one part of who you are. There is so much more. Strength, skill, courage. I am grateful that humans exist, and that you are here." Kale smiled faintly, calm and quiet. "Gentleness is the choice I make. Strength is the responsibility I bear, and courage comes from protecting life and those we care for. That is all any human can do." Liara took his hand, feeling warmth and trust in his calm grip. She realized that the galaxy's underestimation of humans was their advantage, and Kale's calm, deliberate nature had shown her the truth. Humans were extraordinary not because they were loud, aggressive, or obvious, but because their power was quiet, hidden, and unstoppable when needed. The palace celebration that evening was full of cautious joy. Citizens came to offer thanks. Guards shared stories of Kale's calm command during the battle, and even alien nobles nodded in respect. Kale did not seek recognition. He moved through the crowd politely, smiling, offering reassurance to those who feared the enemy's return. Yet everywhere he went, whispers spread of the human who had turned the tide, the man who was gentle but deadly, calm but unstoppable. Liara watched him quietly, pride swelling in her chest. She had married this man thinking he was gentle, and he was, but she had discovered a depth she could never have imagined. His gentleness was deliberate, a mask for the extraordinary skill, strategy, and courage he possessed. The galaxy had never seen a human like Kale before, and she knew it would not soon forget him. That night, in the quiet of her chambers, Liara reflected on all that had happened. The palace was safe, the enemy defeated, and she had seen the true nature of humans. She realized that Kale had not only protected her and her people, but had taught her a lesson in understanding the underestimated. Humans survived, humans adapted, and humans could be far more than any alien imagined. Kyle entered her chamber, calm as ever, and stood beside her. "The city is safe," he said simply. "Rest now. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, but we are ready." Liara looked at him, her heart full of trust and admiration. "Kale, I have learned much from you. You are gentle yet strong, quiet yet unstoppable. I see now why humans survive where others fail." Kyle's eyes reflected quiet satisfaction. "You have learned well, Princess. Humans do not seek glory. We act to protect life. Strength is a tool, patience is a weapon, and courage guides the path." Liara nodded slowly. She felt gratitude, respect, and a deep bond growing between them. The gentle human she had married was also a warrior, a protector, and a teacher. She realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans, but she no longer would. And she knew that with Kale at her side, the palace, her people, and even the galaxy were in capable hands. The days that followed were calm, but Liara remained vigilant. She watched Kale as he continued to prepare the palace defenses, train guards, and plan for any future threats. His calm presence inspired trust and courage in all who saw him. And she realized finally that humans' true strength was not just in skill or courage, it was in the mind, in patience, and in the ability to remain calm when chaos erupted. One evening, as they stood on the balcony watching the stars, Liara turned to Kale. "The galaxy has underestimated humans for too long," she said softly. "I see now that they should not." Kyle nodded. "Underestimation can be an advantage," he said quietly. "But it can also be dangerous for those who doubt us. Humans survive by understanding the world, anticipating danger, and acting decisively, and we protect those we care for no matter the cost." Liara smiled, feeling hope, trust, and admiration. She had married a man she thought gentle, but she had also discovered his hidden strength, his strategy, and his courage. The galaxy had never seen a human like Kale, and she knew it would not soon forget him. The stars shone brightly over Zithra that night, reflecting the peace and hope that had returned to the palace. Liara stood beside Kale, hand in hand, and realized that the gentle human she had married was also her protector, her teacher, and her equal. Together they had survived, and together they would face whatever challenges the galaxy could bring. And in that moment, Liara understood fully. Humans were not weak, fragile, or simple. They were extraordinary. They were quiet, patient, clever, and unstoppable when underestimated. Kale had drawn his blade when necessary, and in doing so he had shown the galaxy the true strength of humans. Liara looked at him, her heart filled with trust, admiration, and awe. The gentle human had revealed himself to be far more than she had imagined. And together, they would face the future, ready for anything the galaxy might bring. The palace was safe. The enemy defeated. The princess and the human were united not only in marriage but in strength, strategy, and understanding. The galaxy had learned its first lesson about humans, and it would never underestimate them again.